The mark was older than Earth's first cities, older than its myths of fire and sky gods. It was a single line in a galactic archive that spanned half the observable universe. Species designation, human. Technological tier, pre-relativistic, primitive. Threat index, negligible. For over 3,000 standard cycles, no one had bothered to revisit it. The galaxy was vast beyond intuition. Thousands of star-faring civilizations wove themselves into a fragile lattice of treaties, wars, trade corridors, and unspoken rules. At the center of it all sat the Concordance, an ancient political body that regulated faster-than-light travel, weaponized physics, and the dangerous knowledge that could shatter stars or rewrite causality. And far, far below their notice, a yellow star burned quietly. Earth. Humanity's first radio signals had leaked into space like nervous whispers. The Concordance had noticed, of course they had. Automated observers always noticed. But the signals were weak, fragmented, bound by light speed, crude mathematics, chemical rockets, nuclear fission barely restrained. Primitive. The observers marked the system, tagged it as a developing biosphere, and moved on. That was the galaxy's first mistake. Dr. Elias Cade did not look like someone who would change the fate of civilization. He was thin, dark-haired, perpetually tired, with a habit of staring into space as if the universe were whispering secrets just loud enough to be annoying. His office aboard the Helios Deep Research Array was cluttered with floating holograms, half-erased equations, and mugs that had long since gone cold. Helios itself was humanity's most ambitious scientific project, an artificial structure the size of a small moon, orbiting just beyond Pluto. Officially, it was a deep space observatory. Unofficially, it was where humanity sent ideas that were too dangerous, too strange, or too heretical for comfortable minds. Elias had been sent there after rewriting a core assumption of quantum field symmetry during his doctoral work, not disproving it, worse. He'd found a loophole. Again, he muttered, fingers dancing through the holographic lattice before him. It has to break somewhere. The equation responded by folding in on itself. Spacetime, as the galaxy understood it, was governed by conservation laws enforced at every scale. Energy could bend it, mass could warp it, exotic matter could cheat it, but there were limits, hard walls no civilization had crossed without catastrophic consequences. Except Elias wasn't pushing on the wall. He was stepping around it. A soft chime sounded. "Dr. Cade," the station AI said gently, "you have been awake for 37 hours. "I know," Elias replied without looking up. "Don't knock on me now." Another flicker, another adjustment, and then the lattice stabilized. Elias froze. The simulation space before him stopped screaming. No runaway infinities, no collapse into nonsense. Instead, spacetime behaved obediently. Not bent, not broken, rewritten. His breath caught. Slowly, he rotated the construct, checking for hidden instabilities. There were none. The equations held across scales, from quantum foam to stellar mass. Wholly, his voice trailed off. If this was correct, and the simulations said it was, then every faster-than-light model humanity had theorized was fundamentally wrong. And the galaxies were too. Elias felt a chill run through him, not triumph, not yet. Fear. Because the math didn't just allow safer FTL. It allowed control. 3 weeks later, the Concordance noticed Earth again. Not because of radio signals, not because of probes, but because something impossible happened in a quiet, unimportant system. An automated gravimetric sentinel, stationed 2 sectors away, registered a fluctuation that made no sense. For a fraction of a second, local spacetime constants shifted, subtly, precisely, then snapped back. No energy spike. No mass displacement. No exotic particles. The Sentinel flagged it as a sensor error. Then it happened again. This time closer. Within days, similar anomalies were reported across a growing radius, all pointing back toward a single unremarkable star. The Concordance convened an emergency subcommittee. Impossible, clicked Speaker Thalrune, its faceted mandibles reflecting the chamber's light. Primitive species cannot manipulate spacetime constants. That knowledge is restricted. Yet the data persists, replied Archivist Serral, her luminescent tendrils dim with unease. The signatures are elegant. That word drew murmurs. Elegance was rare, dangerous. Perhaps an elder race interference, suggested another delegate. No known elder constructs operate in that region, Serral said, and the patterns lack their typical excess. The chamber fell quiet. Finally, Thalrune turned to the hovering glyph that represented Earth's. Update the designation, he ordered, from primitive to anomalous developing, dispatch. Observers. Oppose. And notify the physics sensorium. Helios went into lockdown the same day. Elias stood in the observation ring, staring out at the stars as alarms hummed softly beneath the station's calm voice. Outside, the research array's outer rings adjusted position, forming layered shells of defensive geometry. What did you do? Commander Ria Solano asked quietly, standing beside him. Elias swallowed. I proved a theory. Ria snorted without humor. That's never just a theory, Doc, not at this level. He nodded. I didn't transmit anything, not beyond secure channels, but the field tests. You bent spacetime, she finished. I've seen the reports. You didn't push it. You told it where to go. Elias finally looked at her. We've been wrong, Ria. Everyone has. The universe isn't held together by brute force. It's held together by permissions. Her jaw tightened, and you found a way to revoke them. Or grant new ones. Silence stretched between them. Then the sensors screamed. A shape unfolded beyond Pluto's orbit, vast, angular, utterly alien. It didn't arrive with a flash or a shockwave. It simply was, as if it had always been there and reality had just noticed. An observer vessel. Not hostile, not yet. Ria's voice was steady, all hands to stations, non-aggressive posture. Elias felt the weight of history settle on his shoulders. For the first time since humanity had looked up at the stars, the galaxy was looking back. And it was about to realize its mistake. The alien observer ship hung beyond Pluto like a judgment that had not yet decided how to fall. It was enormous, larger than Helios, larger than anything humanity had ever built, but it radiated no menace. No weapon ports opened, no energy spikes flared. Its hull shimmered with layered materials that bent light at oblique angles, making it difficult for human senses to resolve its true shape. A watcher, which somehow felt worse. Still no transmission, Commander Ria Solano said from the command deck. They're just looking. Elias stood behind her, arms folded, eyes locked on the holographic projection. His equations floated faintly in his peripheral vision, half-remembered ghosts of the thing he'd unleashed. They're confirming, he said quietly, making sure it wasn't a fluke. And when they do, Ria asked. Elias didn't answer. The Concordance did not panic easily. Civilizations rose and fell under its watch. Stars had been extinguished for lesser infractions than violating restricted physics. But this situation gnawed at something deeper than fear. It gnawed at certainty. Within the vast crystal amphitheater of the High Council, delegates reconvened, this time in full session. Species whose empires spanned hundreds of systems watched the central projection of Earth's star flicker with updated data. "Explain again," Speaker Thalrun demanded, his mandibles clicking with irritation. Slowly. Archivist Cyril inclined her head. The localized spacetime variance detected near the Sol system exhibits intentional modulation. The changes are reversible, stable, and most concerning, achieved without exotic matter or catastrophic energy expenditure. A ripple of disbelief passed through the chamber. "That violates causal threshold law," growled Warlord Krex of the Van Dominion. "Such control requires precursor relics or singularity cores." "None detected," Cyril replied. "The signature originates from artificial constructs built by the native species." "Impossible," Krex snapped. "They were classified primitive barely 10 cycles ago." Thalrun's compound eyes narrowed. Classification may have been optimistic. Another delegate leaned forward, bioluminescent skin pulsing. "What is their military capability?" A pause. Cyril hesitated, unknown. That silence was louder than any alarm. Unknown meant unmeasured. Unmeasured meant uncontrolled. Thalrun straightened. "Dispatch a diplomatic envoy, limited authority, observe, communicate, assess threat potential." "And if they resist?" Krex asked eagerly. "Then," Thalrun said, "we remind them why the concordance governs physics itself." The envoy arrived with far less subtlety than the observer. A corridor of distorted stars opened near Mars, a controlled rupture in spacetime that bled prismatic light. From it emerged 3 vessels, each sleek and ceremonial, their hulls engraved with symbols denoting authority older than Earth's oceans. Global sensors lit up. On Earth, governments scrambled, but Helios took point. Humanity had agreed long ago that first contact, if it ever came, would be handled by those who understood the universe best. The transmission came through on all frequencies at once, translated instantly by an algorithm that did not bother asking permission. "I am Envoy Sale of the Concordance," the voice resonated, calm and impossibly confident. "You will designate representatives to receive our communication. Compliance is advised." Rhea exhaled slowly, their polite tyrants. Elias stepped forward. "I'll speak." She turned sharply. "You're not a diplomat." "No," he agreed. "I'm the problem they're here about." A beat. Then Rhea nodded. "Fine, but you don't do this alone." The meeting space was a neutral construct projected between Helios and the Envoy vessels, a shared pocket of stabilized vacuum wrapped in layered force fields. Holographic light coalesced, forming shapes both human and alien. Envoy Sale appeared as a tall, slender figure with translucent skin, internal organs glowing faintly like embers. Its eyes, if they were eyes, regarded Elias with academic interest. "So," Sale said, "you are the architect." Elias swallowed his nerves. "I'm a scientist." "An unusual distinction for a species at your stage," Sale replied. "Your people were catalogued as incapable of higher-order spacetime manipulation." "Your catalogue was wrong." Sale tilted its head. "Arrogance is common among emergent species." Rhea's jaw tightened, but Elias raised a hand. "You felt the change," Elias said. "That wasn't arrogance, it was curiosity." A flicker passed through Sale's luminous core. "Curiosity, unchecked, has ended civilizations." "And fear," Elias countered, "has ended more." The envoy studied him. "You have violated restricted physical domains. Such knowledge is regulated for the stability of the galaxy. Elias nodded. So you say. A pause. You disagree. I say the universe doesn't recognize your authority, Elias replied evenly. Only your enforcement. The temperature in the meeting space dropped a fraction. Sale's voice hardened, careful, human. Elias leaned forward. You came here because something scared you, not because we attacked, not because we threatened anyone, but because we learned something you thought was yours alone. Rhea shot him a warning look. He ignored it. You labeled us primitive, Elias continued, which meant harmless, which meant ignorable, but you never considered that intelligence doesn't advance evenly, sometimes it spikes. Sale's glow pulsed faster. You will relinquish this research. The concordance will integrate your findings safely. Safely for whom? Rhea asked sharply. For the galaxy, Sale said. Elias shook his head. No, for your balance of power. Silence stretched. Then Sale straightened. You misunderstand your position. You exist because we allow it. Elias felt something cold settle in his chest. There it is, he said softly. Sale's eyes narrowed. Explain. You're not here to talk, Elias said. You're here to decide how much force you need to put us back in our place. Rhea's hand hovered near the abort command. Sale did not deny it. The first demonstration was meant to be gentle. A concordance cruiser moved closer to Helios, its gravity wells flexing subtly. The space around it shimmered as it prepared a localized spacetime compression, a non-lethal show of dominance. The message was clear: we control the rules. Elias watched the telemetry scroll across his display. Don't, he whispered. Rhea glanced at him. Don't what? Don't let them finish. She hesitated. Doc, if we respond. They won't hurt us, Elias said, eyes fixed on the data. They can't. The compression wave fired. And vanished. Not dissipated, not countered. It simply unraveled. The space around the cruiser smoothed itself out, as if rejecting the imposed distortion. Alarms flared aboard the alien vessel. Its gravity wells stuttered. Sale's image flickered. What did you do? Elia's voice was steady, almost sad. Nothing. That's impossible. No, Elias said. You told spacetime to bend. We told it you didn't have permission. The chamber erupted into chaos. On concordance channels light years away, warning sigils bloomed. Physics monitors screamed as foundational assumptions failed one by one. Krex roared from his seat. They're suppressing our fields. Cyril's tendrils dimmed in horror, not suppressing, overriding. Thalrun felt something ancient crack within his certainty. For the first time in recorded galactic history, a species the concordance had dismissed as primitive had casually undone a controlled application of higher physics. Not with greater force, but with better understanding. Back in the Sol system, the alien cruiser drifted, suddenly fragile. Elias met Sale's stunned gaze. We don't want a war, Elias said. We just want to be left alone. Sale's voice was barely audible. You have no idea what you've done. Elias nodded. We do. Outside, human defense platforms, long hidden, quietly waiting, shifted position, not aggressively, precisely. The galaxy was beginning to understand. And it was terrified. The galaxy did not sleep after Sol. It watched. Across hundreds of systems, concordance physics beacons recalibrated themselves, then failed. Warp corridors that had existed for millennia flickered, their stability sudden. Lie dependent on conditions no one fully understood anymore. Entire trade lanes were shut down, not by human action, but by fear. Because something had changed. Not the universe. The rules. In the High Council chamber, Speaker Thalrun remained motionless, his mandibles locked in a position that signaled deep cognitive stress. Around him, delegates argued, threatened, and panicked in equal measure. This is an existential violation, Warlord Krex thundered. They have subverted foundational control mechanisms. If they choose, they can immobilize our fleets without firing a weapon. They already did, Cyril whispered, and with minimal effort. Krex slammed a clawed limb against the crystal floor. Then annihilate them now before they propagate this knowledge. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. Thalrun raised a single limb. Silence fell. Annihilation presumes capability, he said slowly. Our envy was neutralized without resistance. Our physics authority was ignored. Cyril's voice trembled. Speaker, the deeper scans are worse. All eyes turned to her. The humans are not projecting force outward, she said. They are establishing a localized domain, a region of spacetime where their equations take precedence. The chamber chilled. A sovereignty of physics, someone breathed. Thalrun closed his eyes. For thousands of cycles, the concordance had ruled not through numbers or weapons alone, but through monopoly. Monopoly on understanding, on which realities were allowed to exist. And now that monopoly was broken. On Helios, the mood was grim but focused. Humanity had not celebrated. There were no cheers, no triumphant broadcasts. The data streaming in from across the Sol system painted a sobering picture. The galaxy was destabilizing itself in response to fear. We are seeing traffic collapse across 3 sectors, Commander Ria Solano reported. Concordance fleets are mobilizing, not toward us, but into defensive postures. They don't know what we'll do, said Admiral Juno Park, her face projected from Earth, which means they're imagining the worst. Elias Cade stood at the center of the command ring, hands clasped behind his back. We gave them proof, he said quietly, not intent. Ria turned to him. Intent won't matter if they decide to strike preemptively. Elias nodded. That's why we have to act. A heavy silence followed. Act how? Admiral Park asked. By making it clear, Elias said, that violence is the least effective option they have. The first human fleet revealed itself 3 days later. It did not arrive through a visible FTL rupture. There was no flash, no warning. One moment the region beyond Neptune was empty. The next it was. Dozens of vessels resolved into existence, their silhouettes stark against the stars. They were not sleek like concordance ships, nor baroque. They were functional, layered hulls, modular geometries, surfaces etched with faintly glowing lines that responded to spacetime stress like living skin. They did not power weapons. They anchored. Across the Sol system, spacetime stabilized into a smooth, controlled gradient. Human transit lanes formed, clean, efficient, and utterly incompatible with concordance drives. Observers watching from afar felt a chill. Human ships were not moving through space. Space was accommodating them. The concordance's response was swift and fractured. Warlord Krex did not wait for consensus. A Van Dominion strike group jumped toward Sol, their war doctrine ancient and brutal: overwhelm, suppress, eradicate. 20 capital ships emerged at the system's edge, weapons charging with enough force to crack planets. They fired. The weapons never reached their targets. Beams bent gently, like light through water, curving away from human assets. Missiles lost momentum, drifting harmlessly as their inertial frames were quietly revoked. The Van ships tried to retreat. They couldn't. Their drives failed to find purchase in spacetime that no longer recognized their equations. On Helios, Rhea watched the tactical display in stunned silence. "They're trapped," she said. Elias closed his eyes. "Yes." "Can they escape?" "Not unless we allow it." Admiral Park's voice was tight. "Elias, this is checkmate." He opened his eyes. "No, it's a conversation." Elias ordered a single ship forward. The UNS Horizon's wake was smaller than the trapped Van capital ships, its hull matte black, its presence unassuming. It drifted toward the immobilized armada, broadcasting on open channels. "This is Dr. Elias Cade of Earth," his voice echoed across the void. "You have entered a sovereign physics domain. Your weapons are ineffective. Your drives are incompatible." Crex's snarling visage appeared on the channel. "Release us, mammal, or be erased." Elias regarded him with something like pity. "You already fired," Elias said, "and nothing happened." Crex hesitated. "You don't underst." "And restraint," Elias continued. "You mistake it for weakness because that's how you use power." Rhea watched Elias' hands tremble slightly. "We could collapse your fleet into singularities," Elias said. "We could strip the binding forces from your hulls and let you disperse into dust. We could erase your ability to ever manipulate spacetime again." Crex's eyes widened. "But we won't," Elias finished. A long silence followed. "Then what?" Crex demanded. Elias inhaled. "Then you will leave," he said, "and you will tell the Concordance exactly what happened here." The Van ships remained frozen, helpless. "Permission granted," Elias said softly. The space around the Van fleet relaxed. Their drives screamed back to life. One by one, the warships vanished, fleeing the system in disordered jumps. Across the galaxy, the message spread faster than any signal. Humanity could decide who physics worked for. The High Council reconvened in emergency quorum. "This is no longer a military issue," Cyril said, her voice hollow. "It is existential." "They did not destroy Crex," Thalrun noted. "They taught him." A junior delegate spoke, trembling. "If their methods propagate, if others learn." "They won't," Thalrun said, "because the humans are not sharing the how, only the fact." Cyril's tendrils curled inward. "They are forcing us to choose our behavior, not compete in power." For the first time, the Concordance understood the trap. You could not intimidate a species that had redefined intimidation itself. And you could not outgun someone who had removed the battlefield. Back on Helios, Elias stared at a live feed of Earth rotating slowly beneath them. Blue oceans, white clouds, fragile and irreplaceable. Rhea joined him. "You did it," she said quietly. Elias shook his head. "No, I delayed it." She frowned. "Delayed what?" "The moment they realize the only way to regain control," Elias said, "is to take me." Rhea stiffened. "They won't," she said. Elias met her gaze. "They will try." Somewhere far beyond Sol, ancient minds were already considering that possibility. And planning, the attempt on Elias Cade's life did not come with fleets or declarations of war. It came quietly, because the Concordance, for all its arrogance, had finally learned the right lesson. The signal originated from nowhere. That alone should have been impossible. On Helios, sensors tracked every known transmission medium: electromagnetic, neutrino, gravitational whisper. This signal rode none of them. It simply appeared inside the station's internal network, a pattern of intent rather than energy. The station AI stuttered. Unidentified informational construct detected, it reported, voice strained. Origin undefined. Elias felt it before anyone told him. A pressure behind his eyes, a sense of being observed not through space, but through assumption. "They're here," he whispered. Rhea was instantly at his side. Who? "The ones who wrote the rules before the concordance ever enforced them," Elias said. "The reason they're afraid to let this knowledge spread." The lights dimmed. In the center of the command ring, space folded inward, not violently, but with surgical precision. A figure emerged, tall and indistinct, its form constantly reconfiguring, as if struggling to settle on a shape compatible with human perception. An elder. The concordance legends spoke of them in careful half-truths, beings who had not conquered the galaxy but organized it, who had learned, long ago, that controlling physics was easier than controlling people. Rhea raised her weapon. Elias gently pushed it down. "It's not here to fight," he said. The elder's voice did not vibrate air. It resonated directly within cognition itself. "You have destabilized a carefully maintained equilibrium." Elias met its impossible gaze. "You built a cage and called it order." "We built a safeguard," the elder replied. "Unrestricted access to fundamental law leads inevitably to annihilation." Elias nodded. "Yes, it does." The elder paused. That more than anything terrified the watching humans. "Then why persist?" it asked. "Because stagnation leads there too," Elias said. "Just slower, quieter, with fewer chances to choose differently." The elder's form sharpened. "You believe your species will choose restraint." "I know we won't always," Elias said. "That's why we didn't spread the math. That's why we're not conquering. We are forcing a pause, a moment where power isn't the deciding factor." "You are one mind," the elder said. "Your species will not always follow you." Elias smiled faintly. "Neither did yours." Silence. "Then you are prepared to die for this." It wasn't a question. Elias looked at Earth on the display, at the billions of lives who would never know his name. "Yes," he said. Rhea's breath caught. "Elias." He turned to her. "This was always the cost." The elder studied him for a long, unreadable moment. Then the Azure lifted. "We will not take you," it said, "not because you are right, but because you have made enforcement impossible." Elias frowned. "Explain." "If we remove you," the elder said, "your species will mythologize you. They will spread your work out of defiance. Conflict will escalate. The concordance will fracture. The outcome will be worse." Rhea let out a shaky breath. Instead, the elder continued, "We will withdraw. The concordance will lose its monopoly, and the galaxy will be forced to mature." Elias felt a weight settle on him, not fear, but responsibility. "What do you want in return?" he asked. The elder's form softened. "That you remain exactly what you are," it said. "A reminder that power does not require permission, but wisdom does." And then it was gone. The aftermath unfolded over years. The concordance did not fall, it changed. Without absolute control of physics, its authority shifted from enforcement to coordination. Trade lanes reopened under shared frameworks. New accords formed, not around who could use power, but who should. Humanity did not rush outward. That surprised everyone. Instead, Earth became a quiet axis of thought. Scientists from dozens of species arrived, not to steal secrets, but to understand the philosophy behind them, why humans had stopped. Elias refused all positions of authority. He returned to research. Not on control, on limitation. On the 10th anniversary of first recognition, a small memorial was placed on Helios. No grand statue, just a plaque etched into the observation ring. Here, humanity learned that the universe does not grant power. It reveals it. And what we do with it defines us. Rhea stood beside Elias, older now, streaks of grey in her hair. They call this era the permission age, she said. Elias watched Earth turn below. Good, he replied. It reminds them it can be taken away. She smiled. Do you ever regret it? He considered the question. I regret that it took fear to make them listen, he said. But no, I don't regret choosing restraint. Beyond the glass, human ships moved through space that welcomed them, not as masters, but as participants. The galaxy had marked Earth as primitive. It had been wrong, not because humanity was the strongest, but because, when given the power to rewrite reality itself, humanity had chosen not to rule it, only to protect the right of others to choose.